Howdy everybody, I'm Harvey Media, and this is, I don't know, week, yeah, take that, Grace Helbig, I'm stealing your show. I'm glad that so many people have been giving me good feedback on the Screen Junkies audition that I did. I did send it in to Screen Junkies immediately after uploading, so we'll see if anything comes from that. Who knows? It was more important for me just to do it and to get my name out there than it is to if they actually respond to it. So either way, I feel like I've won. If they do decide to offer me a job, that would be wonderful. But if they don't, that's fine. What I'm actually here for is for my comic book show. So I guess I should have said welcome to the bookshelf. It's been a while. I figured I haven't really been giving much consistent content on this channel for a while, and again, it's been because I've been working on some other projects and things, still working on them, but I figured that it might be nice to do something again and put something out there, especially since I got the snazzy new haircut that I want to show off to everyone. I'm not quite as shaggy as I was last time I made a video. So, yeah, so, been doing a lot of comic book collecting lately, looking at all this stuff, and so I finally went out and I bought myself bags and boards. So we're going to go down here, and you can see down here I got all of my comics bagged and boarded. Problem being, of course, now that I've got them bagged and boarded, they are just kind of sitting here, because I could afford the bags and boards, or I could afford the long box. And I figured that the bags and boards were better because at least they would preserve the comics. Like this one. This is one that my dad had when he was a kid. It's very old, as you can see. And so I bagged and boarded it to make sure that it was preserved. This is what my dad says is the greatest comic book ever made. And to be honest, it's hard to argue with him. It's weird that this is one of them, because this is from the What If line. For those of you who don't know, Marvel Comics back in the day, and I think still today, they keep bringing it back and then getting rid of it. They used to have a series called What If, which is essentially official fan fiction, where they would just say, like in this instance, it's what if the Avengers had fought evil in the 1950s, because the Avengers weren't formed until the 60s. There was also other stuff that I've read has been like, what if the spider had bitten someone else, which ended up being a comic that introduced Spider-Gwen way, way, way earlier than Spider-Gwen actually appeared in the comics. There's also if J. Jonah Jameson get bitten by the spider, if General Ross had turned into the Hulk. You know, all this different stuff. And, of course, there's one that Linkara reviewed. You can look up his video where he talked about what if the clone had survived from the original clone story. That ended up kind of preceding the story of the Clone Saga that eventually happened in the 90s. But was a lot simpler of a story, of course. But, so this comic in particular... for those of you who don't know much about the history of Marvel, if you look back at my other video, I said that there was the Marvel First book about World War II heroes. Marvel rode on DC Comics' coattails in World War II. DC Comics had Superman and Batman, and they really started a superhero boom in the 30s and 40s. And Marvel, which had been mostly kind of like sci-fi and horror comics... Excuse me, sorry, morning, I'm sleepy. They realized that this was a popular thing, and they kind of rode on DC's coattails in order to get popularity as well. But they did create some really cool characters in the 40s. But then the 50s happened, and superheroes started going out of fashion, and then Frederick Wertham came in and did publish Seduction of the Innocent, his big manifesto about how comics were corrupting youth. And that basically destroyed the comics industry for a while. DC survived because Superman and Batman are cultural icons that can never really die. But Marvel, or Timely, or was it known as Atlas at the time? They've been through a lot of names over the years. They really suffered from it, and they kind of... they tried to continue doing superheroes, but none of the superheroes they had stuck. So they had people like, as you see on the cover of this comic, you have Venus, you have Marvel Boy, 3D Man and the Robot Man and the Gorilla Man. I don't remember. Oh, Gorilla Man and the Human Robot. That's what they are. And they tried to make these people into superheroes. Gorilla Man and the Human Robot were actually not superheroes as far as I know. I think they were horror and sci-fi comic monsters. But they were decent enough people that when they came about to taking this idea, they were like, what if we took our 1950s kind of failed superhero ideas and put them into a team of Avengers, and just said, well, what if we come up with the Avengers in the 50s? And like the point of most what-if stories is to dally about with the idea and then basically say, but it wouldn't work. So in this comic, you have these guys teaming up to face off against supervillains that Marvel had in the 50s. So they're facing off against the Yellow Claw, which was a 1950s Asian stereotype villain that Marvel created to compete with the Fu Manchu franchise. You have a whole bunch of other villains that are really cool. You have a guy that can just kill people by looking at them. Someone who can turn people into stone, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I've read it. Oh, there's an ice villain. It's a really cool book, and it's really dark and really badass, and it's just really awesome. It used to be my favorite comic when I was a kid. I understand why my dad liked it so much. And but in the end, of course, because it's what if, and you want to show that the main universe is better than these alternatives, in the end, they meet with the president, and the president says, well, Joe McCarthy's a thing, anybody different is bad, so we're going to ask you guys to disband. And so they do. But that actually gives them a weird loophole, because this comic, which meant so much to me when I was a kid, and meant so much to Dad when he was a kid, might not actually be fictional. It might not actually be a what-if scenario, because if you look at the ending where he says, well, we're going to have to keep all of your adventures a secret, and you're going to have to disband, it actually seems like it might not have been a what-if story. It might have been something that actually happened and just was never widely reported. And Marvel looked at this book. I don't know why they ever looked at this book, because I didn't know that anyone knew about this or was interested in this except for my dad and my brothers and myself. But apparently Marvel Comics actually, so there was someone in Marvel editorial that really liked this book, because a couple years later, when they were doing this event where they were bringing back a whole bunch of old superheroes and having everyone in their own superhero teams and such, it was called the Heroic Age. What did we get but this book? Now, they aren't the Avengers, because the Avengers are their own team, but they're called Agents of Atlas, because when these heroes were formed, Marvel Comics was called Atlas Comics. So they brought this team back, and you have the Human Robot, you have Venus, you have Namora, who is actually in the book very briefly, although she doesn't get cover status. You have the new 3D Man. You have the same secret agent guy who I can't remember the name of, who formed them in the book. You have the Gorilla Man. You have Marvel Boy in his new suit. You have the whole team, and it's really awesome. And of course, so I definitely picked up that book at the time. I didn't get to pick up the rest of the miniseries, and it was only miniseries because, again, only me and my dad would have bought it, and my dad doesn't buy comics, so I think I'm the only one who bought it. But I want to read the rest of this series, even if it's not as good as the original book, and it probably isn't. But no, great comic. If you buy the trade paperback version of the Agents of Atlas miniseries, it includes origin comics for each of the characters, so you know who they are, and it includes the original issue that inspired the story. And that's just one of my favorite comics of all time. I don't care if, like, from a critical standpoint it's good or not. Just to me, it means a lot. It's a great book. I am terrified to read it anymore because it's just falling apart all over the place. But yeah, that's my 2 cents for right now. Hopefully I'll get more of these videos out in the upcoming weeks, and maybe I'll actually get some scripted, edited, really high-quality videos out for you, too, at some point. Who knows? Anyway, thanks for watching. You have a great day. Bye-bye.